Hello, everybody. My name is Duško Misek, and I'm a Senior Development Manager for IBM Rational Reporting Solutions, including JRS. And I was supposed to be joined today with Jared Pulam. He's our Product Manager for Reporting Solution, but it looks like something unexpected happened, so he doesn't seem to be able to join us this morning. What I'm going to start covering is essentially the presentation that Jared and I gave at Interconnect at Las Vegas in February. But I'm going to try to tailor it a little bit for today's topic in regard that I'm going to skip or glance through the first part of the presentation, which is really aimed to kind of explain what the reporting is, and I'm going with the assumption that most people on the call are already familiar with that, and I'm going to focus more on JRS, the JAS reporting service itself. So if I go through this, this is again about general stuff about reporting and the differences between IT and systems development. And here we are starting to come to part that should be more interesting for today's discussion. Basically, the various rational reporting solutions and how we are evolving that in 5.0 and then following up in 6.0 release. As most of you are familiar, the traditional rational reporting solutions went around Cognos reporting through either RRDI or Insight, with RRDI being shipped with CLM and Insight being a separate product. But essentially, both of them providing access to the Cognos BI server and reporting from the data warehouse. The other part of the reporting solution were the built-in BERT reports, and obviously you could create BERT reports yourself if you downloaded BERT environment on the side and deploy it to CLM. And the final piece of that were also some of the queries built into each of the application itself for the live reporting. We have, in past, we faced a number of issues with those solutions, but the major problem that we had was that the reporting in general was very hard for the end users. So the teams were forced to have specialized people who would create and deploy reports for them, creating bottlenecks and making it a very slow process. So the major effort we had last year was to create a self-serve reporting solution, and that's really what JRS is trying to address, so JAS reporting service. That's also been accompanied with DCC, or data collection component. DCC is not a fundamental shift in terms of how the reporting works, but it's really meant to improve the performance and liveliness of the data. So the older ETL solutions we had, the Java ETLs or data manager ETLs that come with Insight, depending on the customer data set size, would take anywhere from hours to, in some cases, even days to collect the data for that particular day. And that would essentially force people to run ETLs only once a day, and the reports toward the end of that period would be relatively stale. With DCC, we've improved that and to an order of magnitude, and on our own self-host, we went down from running ETLs once a day to running them every 15 minutes. And we've seen the same improvement on pretty much all of the customers who have tried that. That is really coupled with JRS, who then gives you ability to report on the data in the data warehouse as a self-serve engine, so from the end user point of view. Move quickly to this part. So JRS is a part of the CLM. It's one of the components in RRDI. In 5.0 release, we've added both DCC and JRS into the RRDI. So it's once you get the CLM license, you get access to both of those subcomponents. We are probably going to talk a little bit later on the 6.0 and where we're going toward with that release, where it's even more prominent in CLM. It's part of the CLM packaging itself. So it's not a part of RDI packaging anymore. So it's part of the main download. And here are some of the screenshots how JRS reporting looks like. On the right-hand side, you can see an example of a tabular report built in JRS, and another one below that is in a graphical. The main idea is that you do not need a reporting expert to create those reports. So essentially, you just go in, and in a few minutes, you should be able to create your own report by yourself. These could be either tabular or graphical. You could switch the presentation once the report is created, so it doesn't have to be cast in stone. It has ability to go across multiple project areas. So that was one of the big issues with RTC work item queries, where although they were flexible and fast and live data, you could only report in a single project area. With JRS, you can report across project areas. It also gives you ability to do multi-artifact traceability reports. So, for example, creating a report on test cases from RQM, covering all of the requirements from DNG, covering all of the stories, work items created in RTC. You could also use the reports as the template. So there is a relatively high level granularity here. You can either create reports to be private for yourself, or you can expose them to the wider team. In case of graphical reports, you can also drill down and get a tabular report on a particular part of your graphical presentation. There are also some export functionalities. There is export to Excel. We can actually export to RP as well, although that's not as obvious from the UI as the Excel one is. But this is the management UI in JRS. So if you take a look at this, it's not like traditional CLM UIs. That is because we've started modernizing the UI and done a lot of the design and user interface research around this. So it's supposed to be modern and clean, easy to use with only a few main options. The main things you would do is access either the use section, where you would see a list of all of the available reports, like in the bottom right corner, or you would go to the build, where you would create your new report from scratch. From here, you can also access the JAS dashboard, so you can easily move to your RTC dashboard or your RPM dashboard, or whichever app it is that you're using. In terms of reports themselves, they can be grouped under tags. So it's not exactly like folders, because a single report could be stored in a multiple folders/tags. You can also filter them to quickly find the ones that you need.
Duško, if I could add a little bit here.
Sure.
Great. Thank you. So on the interface, I mean, a lot of our strategy around the JAS reporting service, and Duško's already mentioned some of this, has been really to modernize and allow you to have better and easier access into the reporting environment. From some of the past reporting solutions and capabilities that we've offered, namely around Insight, and even some of the technologies that we've offered through RRDI. I guess the amount of time that it took for being able to set up and deploy those solutions, and sometimes the complexity, of course, in terms of even writing the scripts, was met with such resistance by many different organizations that they were looking for something that was more accessible to the mainstream user. And so what you see here, as Duško is starting to present the new UI, this is effectively our strategic answer to that to that request. So we wanted to make something that allowed them to be able to come in and be able to graphically organize the way in which they would depict the metrics and analytic requirement and work item test information that they were managing in their different repositories. And as Dushko mentioned, we wanted to overcome some of the architectural boundaries and limitations that we had in some of the point product tools, namely being isolated within single projects, or even limited to reporting on just simply the scope of a single database. And all of these these limitations were overcome with the introduction of the JAS reporting service as we brought it out last year. So it gives us a real fresh take on being able to offer reporting capability to your user communities, and basically piggyback on top of the existing type of solutions that you may already have in place. So as Dushko was showing just a few minutes ago, we had the opportunity, of course, to be able to run reports out of the box with products like Rational Team Concert, Rational Quality Manager, or Rational Doors Next Generation. And there are reports, that are there. But immediately, as you start using or looking at the JAS reporting service, it allows you to be able to expand and go beyond the capabilities that are offered within those point product tools. So, like for instance, as I was just mentioning, you have the ability to be able to bridge and go across the different projects and show effectively a cross-project report. So that means that I can now take all of my work items and find out the status of all of those work items across all those projects in my JAS repository. I could, of course, even go across and show data across to other repositories if I've got a more complex topology. In the Doors Next Generation environment, for instance, we had immediate requests to be able to do traceability filtering at the different levels of from one level of link to the next, traceability nodes, if I can call them that, and and being able to do that in the point product was impossible. Whereas in the JAS reporting service, we immediately overcame that architectural limitation and allowed us to be able to show traceability of one-to-one and one-to-many. And there's also additional conditional capabilities that you'll see in a moment as Dushko carries on, that allows you to be able to set up the types of filtering or reports that you couldn't do in some of the point product tools. And as Dushko started to introduce it again, this is a service which is supporting all of this CLM environment today, but strategically we plan that it will continue to support other IBM-based tools and even opportunities to be able to support data sources that you have or have built within house. So as the JAS reporting service continues to mature, expect to to be able to set up the types of reports that you would expect to see to run your different processes, and hopefully. Again, what you'll see here, and as we get into the demonstration, it does open your eyes in terms of allowing your mainstream user, as I called them a moment ago, the mainstream user to be able to create and build the reports that they need based on whatever point they are in their particular development phase or life cycle. As in the past, most of our project teams, as we got feedback, they said that they had to go through some type of a a bottleneck where you had one or two reporting specialists on your team. You would get, as a practitioner, you would have this idea of a report that you needed for your development process, but you would have to go to that reporting specialist in order to create it. And that, that of course created sometimes a backlog within an organization as that reporting specialist had to kind of support multiple teams and multiple reports and come back and tweak things. Whereas now, hopefully with this JAS reporting service and this new UI, it will break down that, that roadblock or that, that barrier and allow them to be able to create the type of conditions and views and report or widgets that they need, that they can plug into either their own personal dashboards or into their public dashboards. Now, as I turn the time here back to Dushko now, continue to start thinking about the types of reports that you may want to create, because we are going to show you some examples here today. But this is obviously not just simply a product demo. I would like it to be an opportunity for you to to start thinking about the types of things that you do already today, or the types of reports that you run, and how can this JAS reporting service expand upon that. How can it improve upon what you're doing today, or what can you do to to add the types of reports that you need? Again, sometimes we get project teams that come to us and say, hey, we have one or maybe two reports. We really don't know what to do here. We've had a few additional ideas. a burn down or burn up or something like that. And but beyond that, we really would like to be able to have additional metrics to help us make business decisions based on the data in our projects. And with, again, the JAS reporting service, we want it to be able to unlock those types of capabilities and be able to answer those types of questions. Obviously just having the data in your repository is one thing, being able to manage it is another, but being able to actually use it to be able to make effective business decisions is one of the real reasons why you have the tool in the first place. And that's where the JAS reporting service comes in. It really does try and answer those types of questions and give us the capability. So start thinking about that, please, as we now get into this product side of today's presentation and begin to show how how the reports can be created, and again think about how you would want to approach this based on either single type artifact reports or multi-artifact reports or traceability reports, and then as we'll talk about towards the end, this is still a growing solution. As I mentioned a moment ago, it is strategic to us, but it has a certain set number of capabilities today, and we're showing you the version 5.02, which came out in December. We'll have another release coming up later this quarter, and obviously those capabilities will continue to expand as we enrich the different powers that have been requested, or the reporting powers that have been requested in order to to unlock these different types of reports that we've had customers request from us. Anyway, I just wanted to give a little bit more introduction, I guess, kind of a little bit more background there before we get into the product side of today's presentation. Thanks, Dušo. I'll be back in a minute.
No problem. So I'm just going to continue now on the creation side. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this because we're going to do a demo where you'll be able to see this in real use. But the essence of the UI is that it's a wizard-based where you go through certain steps and pick the artifacts that you want to report on, scope it, put the condition, and select the values that you want reported. While the result side would be either graphical or tabular presentation. In terms of how you can see the reports, you could run them directly from JRS, so that was like in the previous page. This report is run directly from the JRS UI, or you could deploy them as widgets on RTC or any other CL Maps dashboards, and there they would behave exactly the same as any other report. So just pause here for a second, see if you have any questions before we go to the demo part, or we should do the demo and then go through Q&A.
Well, Duško, if I can add one more thing on the last slide. Again, as the JAS reporting service is being introduced, I mean, Duško has shown here the different types of reports which can be, of course, supported through primarily the JAS reporting service. But beyond that, if you do have existing reports today, again, RTC or RQM support BERT reports, you may already have RRDI or Insight Cognospace reports, and if you have those and they are in your dashboard, that's absolutely fine. The JAS reporting service is complementary, and these reports are based on open source technology, and they allow us to be able to put the JAS reporting service reports into the dashboard right alongside the existing your existing BERT or Cognospace reports. So if again, if what you see today offers you that chance to be able to give your mainstream practitioner a better opportunity to leverage or get better access to reports, then this is just a complementary option for you. And so keep that in mind. This doesn't have to be an either/or decision or choice. It can be a complementary option. Now, obviously, as an admin, you would have to go in and set up the additional JAS reporting service. It can draw on the same data from the same data warehouse. So there is some complementary options there. But in terms of leveraging and giving out the access into the web UI and being able to put these types of reports into your dashboard, that can be done in complementary fashion to your existing reports today. We can take questions and answers. We can do questions and answers still at the end. Duško, if you want to continue on.
Sure. So then I'm going to go through the demo. And I'm going to start with a place that should be familiar for most of the folks. It's essentially a CLM dashboard. And if I wanted to move to JRS to start my reporting activities, it's available directly from the home button as any other CLM application. And going here, you can see this UI that we've had in the presentation between the using and build. Under the use, I can see some of the tags that we've already created. And there is also a number of out-of-the-box reports that you can run as soon as you install JRS. There is about 20 of them, and they're addressing various aspects of life cycle. But what I really wanted to show is how easy it is to create a brand new report. So I'm going to start with a simple one where we're going to demonstrate both tabular and graphical presentation. And I'm going to create a work item-based report and skip the traceability part. We'll get to that with the second example. In our demo environments, we only have a single project area for RTC, but if I had multiple, it would be as easy to select any number of them. And what I want to show here is a number of open defects that are and sorted by severity and priority. So creating a condition, all of the open ones. And on the right-hand side, I don't know if it's shown on the screen or not. I can't see it because of the webinar. On the right-hand side, as I'm building the report, there is also My Choices panel, so you can see essentially the definition of your report as you're progressing. So after creating a condition, I'm going to add a couple more columns to the report. I want to see severity. I would like to see priority as well, and owner. At the very bottom of this tab, there is also advanced panel. In here, if the report builder's UI is not capable enough, you could actually put in directly SQL and create any sort of a report you want. But the moment you start doing this, then you cannot use the UI anymore to modify that particular report. So this is kind of an advanced option. And on the last panel, it's naming the report, so open defects. I'm going to add a tag so I can easily find my report later. And I'm going to make it public. You can put it onto a dashboard. And with this, my report is essentially done. If I run it, I can get a tabular presentation. I could also change it to see graphical presentation of my open defects. And I would actually like to see them by severity. So you can see in here how many we have. One block error, one critical, some majors, and the number of normal defects. Or you can use different graphical presentations. So for example, we could do stacked bar, and then we could have a subgrouping on, let's say, priority. So within each severity group, you could see how was the business priority for solving those. So this was a relatively simple report based on a single artifact. Let's see this first. But I would like to create one that is also based on traceability so that we can see the reports being created that cross project and even application boundaries. So again, I'll start with the work items. But now I'm going to create a traceability link. And I'm going to do a traceability link to test cases. So I want to see all of the test cases that are related to my work item. And under limiting scope now, I actually can see both RTC and DashCam project areas because the report will be based on artifacts from both application types. And under conditions, I want to scope my that's in the test case. The work item type, I want to scope it on the type.
If I could comment here. Hopefully you see that the way that this has been set up is that there's effectively a 4-step option. So it's been configured to kind of represent a wizard format in a way, allowing you to choose the artifact, move on to the next step, choose the projects, next step, and then go in to set the conditions. So it really tries to guide you as you're going through the different steps. And although as Duško's introduced, there is that advanced area. Again, this is an option that that it really shouldn't have to be touched by most of your users as they go through and select the different pieces that they want through the UI. And again, as Duško's kind of paused right here on the conditions area, this is where we would be able to define again what type of either out-of-the-box type or custom type that you may have created, attribute type that is, for your different, filter or query. And then once you've selected that, then you can set the conditions, for being able to, include or not include, or and or in terms of the more complex queries. So hopefully you kind of get that as kind of Duško's moving through from step to step.
So that. And Jared is right. So this is the wizard-based approach where we are trying to guide you through, but it's also aimed for people who become used to the interface, and you don't have to necessarily follow the exact steps. So I'm obviously been in this for quite some time, so I'm not always going to go through the continue button and go through the wizard, because I don't need that guidance anymore. But it should serve equally well beginners as well as the power users. And the way the UI is set up. Now, in this case, I actually don't really need anything else. I'm pretty much okay with the columns that are going to be shown. I don't need any extra conditions. So we'll just move now to naming this report. So let's call it features and test cases. Make it public and create add a tag. And now if I run this report, you can see that I'm getting both work items from RTC in the first column, and then all of the related test cases. So in some cases, actually, I have more than one test case related to the single stories. And for example, here with allocate dividends by percentage, so that was the feature, and then we actually had two different test cases covering that. I'm quickly going to go back to the CLM dashboard. I would actually like now to demonstrate how you can add those reports that you've created to the dashboard. So you do that by pretty much doing the same thing as with any other widget through the Add Widget interface. Then the catalog needs to be changed from default to JRS. And then I can choose either from all of the reports or some of the particular tags that we have. So in this case, it would be demo. And I would like to add my open defects tag and my features and test cases.
Duško, can I pause on this for just 1 second? Again, I think this is a really good opportunity to understand that these widgets, because they're open source, can be added to any of your application dashboards. So even though I may be inside the Doors Next Generation environment, I could take work item-based reports or test-based reports and plug those into my dashboard. I'm not limited by the application that I may be in. So these, this gives me a more universal way of being able to look at data or statuses across other projects or across other teams. So, for instance, even myself as a product manager, I can look at, the work item statuses or the defect statuses that are coming out for the product that I'm working on, even though I may not be actually in the development team's environment. I may be working on the requirements in the Doors Next Generation environment, or I may be interested in just simply test statuses as the test team is working through their information. So I would go in, I'd be able to select those reports that, that answer those questions for me and plug them into my dashboard. So it's more open than a single application.
So I think that's pretty much it in terms of the basic functionality, and I think we also covered most of the slides. I don't know if you want to show the architecture slide, Jared, or not.
Could you do one more?
I'm going to ask a couple questions that I see in the question board, and maybe you could just address them real quick. How about custom attributes? Are they exposed in the in JRS?
Yes, they are.
Okay. So, and someone asked about demoing a burn down or burn up report. Do we have any? I know we have something out of the box, probably some burn reports. Have you guys implemented any in JRS, or is that part of the JRS suite, or is that something you'd have to build by yourself?
So sorry, go ahead, Jared.
Go ahead, Jared.
No, yeah, I guess on the kind of future-based stuff, I'll answer those. But so Eric, that's a great question, and this is one of the items that you have to look in our releases coming up at the end of this quarter. So what you've seen today in the demonstration is based on that 502 release that came out in December, and it did not have any any burn up or burn down reports in it. But if you go and look on jazz.net and look at some of the latest milestone builds there, you'll see a few examples of what's coming in the release at the end of this quarter, and it does have these both out of the box and opportunities to be able to create some. So,
okay.
So yes.
All right, thank you, Jared.
This is Rich Sinter. One of the things we could ask for, not just to be able to generate these reports and have them visible within the console, but like a general publishing thing where they could be published to some, through some published server where it publishes to a HTTP page where you just send them the link to that page. So, I mean, I think another way to probably do it, you tell me, would be a best way to kind of create some tabs within like a master project area and then send them a link to that where they can see the status of multiple projects and drill into reports that way. Is that a good suggestion to tell them?
That is something that we use internally that way as well. So in our own development environment, we have multiple products. For example, in the CLM solution, there is 3 major applications. There is JTS, then various reporting apps, etc. And we have a lot of project areas. We have sort of a kind of, you suggested that, I didn't think of it in terms of a major project area, but the common one. And then our dashboards have multiple tags there. And depending on what sort of report you want to show, we have reports that are targeting, in some cases we have multiple widgets, one for each project, and in some cases we have aggregate reports, so the widget represents more than one. That's certainly one way to do it, and it's not a bad way. We do have abilities also to, we've shown you the export to Excel. I think that was mentioned at one point. When you export a report to Excel, there are actually 2 different options. One is to make a static export, so you capture the report as it is. But the other one is dynamic. So what you export to Excel is a URL, and then whenever you open the Excel file, the worksheet, it actually regenerates the report. So you could use that as well. And the third option is integration with RP, so Rational Publishing Engine. We do have, even in 5.0 up to 5.02, a way to publish our reports to RP and use it as RP templates, but it's kind of hidden, and there is a lot of manual work involved in that. With the release coming in at the end of this quarter, that's becoming more of a more visible in the UI, right next to the export to the Excel option, and then you could use all of the standard RP techniques to publish the report. So there are kind of different ways to do it. we don't have a straight out, let's publish a report in sort of type of a document and then you put it in a single place. It would be one of those techniques that you would have to use.
Good question.
Thank you, Jessica. That was good. Thanks.
Dushko, maybe there's two more things you could show in a demonstration. I think we hinted at the Excel type capability, but maybe if you'd want to to show that, and then also I'd like to see or show the traceability type report in a little bit more detail. Could we take just a few more minutes to show those?
Sure.
Okay, well, I'll let you demo next time.
I'm trying to figure out, I don't really see that probably because I don't have the report manager, right? Oh, here it is, export. So from here I could export to Excel the report that we had. So that should be on any report. In 6.0 there would be another line in here, so it would export to RPE. So Jared, in terms of traceability reports, what exactly did you want to show? We had the one with the work items and test cases, but did you want something more detailed?
Just in the sense where we can actually show, or we can do queries on the different nodes across, and I just didn't see one of the one-to-many relationship types that I think would be kind of valuable just for people to see that is supported. One other thing about Excel, so I mean, Dushko's pointed it out where it is. When you actually do the export from Excel, there is an option in the Excel spreadsheet that allows you to continue to update against your data warehouse. So if you have people in your project team who are prone or are adverse, and let me say it that way, that they don't want to actually use the tool or go into your project environment to look at the report, this would be an option for you to give them an Excel type-based report, and then they would be able to sync or update to the data warehouse to be able to keep that Excel report up to date. So that's, again, it's one kind of a nice, I know it's not it doesn't completely answer I think the need of the publishing need that you just brought up in the question there. But if you do have people that are kind of in that kind of a frame of mind of wanting to work offline but yet still get access to some type of report, that's a way you could consider it through the Excel export.
So this is the report that we created with the work items and test cases. So as Jared mentioned, you could go multiple levels. It doesn't have to stop with the test case. In this case, for example, I could take the execution records. So I want to see my stories, then followed with the test cases, then followed with the actual execution records on those test cases. Or depending on how I set it up, I could go and include requirements in here as well. For each of these, for the relationship types, you can either have a required or optional. In the upcoming release, this is actually becoming even more flexible. So instead of defining required versus optional only on the first one, you'll be able to do it on each traceability level. And we're also adding a separate condition for reinforcing that a particular relationship type does not exist at all. So it is also work in progress. I think even today you can do a lot with this, but with this is an area that we're investing in, and with each release we're making it progressively better.
For those of you, again, working in multi-project environments, this is, again, one of those areas that allows you to be able to set up compliance-type reports or validation, or, traceability is about allowing us to be able to see information that are beyond our typical development or, work domain. So even though, again, I'm maybe a product manager working with requirements, I can look over across into the development environment and see statuses or owners and other values without having to replicate information. I can use those traceability links to my advantage. This is a great view. Thank you.
So in our previous example, first we looked into the stories and then test cases covering those stories. But now you can also see the actual execution records. And depending on what it is that they want to do, I could have constrained this a little bit further and look only for particular runs, for particular iterations, etc. There there is a lot of flexibility here, but again, it's probably going to take a while to get all of the features that you would do in a more admin-oriented tool like Cognos. But the main point here is to try to make this as close to the end user as possible. So that's the main aim that we have.
Thank you, Duško. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to show.
Okay, Jared and Duško, does that about wrap up what you had to present?
I think one more, if we could go back to the slide, I think it is worth at least pausing on the architecture slide there, and then we'll go over to the Q&A. It'll take 1 more minute here, and then it'll give us the proper time for any other additional questions. So again, as I was kind of commenting earlier in terms of kind of the different technologies that we, that we're having, the JAS reporting service, as you're seeing it here, and then, we've only briefly kind of talked about the server side, which is highlighted here in the DCC. It's called the data collection component. So again, this is this is the server side data warehouse ETL collection that was introduced last year, and even it's an asynchronous way of being able to populate and update your data warehouse. It's much more performant than the technologies we've had in the past, and so using this to be able to gather or collect the information from your different tools. So you see here, for instance, the Composer, Doors Next Generation tool, Quality Manager, and Team Concert. We do expect to expand on other tools in the future. Again, as I mentioned earlier on, in kind of a strategic statement, this is planned to certainly expand beyond the CLM tools as we move forward and continue to to evolve the JAS reporting service in the future. So expect to see more there. But this it can work in complement, as I said, with some of these other technologies. So, for instance, across the bottom here, you see the existing BERT reports that you may have coming with RTC or RQM. We've got the Cognos-based reports, which may be in place today through RRDI or through Insight, excuse me. And then, likewise, as Duško mentioned a moment ago, we can also complement this by feeding the information that we have into Rational Publishing Engine. So if you're looking to be able to get any of these graphical or grid-style reports and then put them into, for instance, some type of a compliance document or specification, in order to, to track or show your progress of the project, and then, take that document and put it into a data management center, then that would be an option too. So there's a whole range of different possibilities of what you can do with the data here beyond just simply putting this into a spreadsheet or into a gadget or a widget and, and just consuming the information live. So, consider again the ways in which you may be using reports today. Think about the ways in which you could expand on those, using this JAS reporting service and improve the way in which you're reporting on projects. That's the last thing I have to say, unless you have anything else, Duško.
No, I don't have anything else.
Okay, and I think people have been asking some questions in the question window. Anyone that has another question, feel free to type it in now. If not, we'll wrap up. I'll give you like a minute or so. The lines are muted. If someone raises their hand and wants to talk, I can unmute their line. But for now, if there's no other questions, I'll give you about a minute, and then we'll wrap up the webcast. While we're waiting, I did post something in the chat window early on. If you want to look at the top of the next hour, this is Eric Larson. I am hosting another webcast. It's part of my sort of hands-on series with the rational reporting tools, and I'm going to go through the process of how to add, some details about RRDI and Insight reports and how to import them and incorporate them into your CLM application. So how to add it to your reports perspective, how to pull a report into your JAS RRDI report onto your JAS dashboard, how to do it with and without prompting. So I'll be covering that. In the chat window, I pasted an invitation to that. So if anyone's interested in that, they can click that and register for it. As I said, it starts up in about 10 minutes. And with that, it doesn't look like there were any other questions typed in. I don't see any hands raised. So I would like to, a special thanks to Jared and Duško for joining us today. It was great having you. If you have any other questions or comments, please send them to me, elarson@ironsiderational.com. I think you got an email or send it to the email in your invitation. We'll be contacting you offline to see if you want a copy of the presentation. We'll probably post it on the Ironside Rational site as well. I did a recording, so I'll post the recording too. So with that, I'll conclude the webcast. Thank you very much for joining, and have a nice day.